So, we're here, we're talking. We're gonna go over my deck today, I guess. I mean, it runs you about 110 on TCG Player. It's competitive, it's great. Has big things like Krakens, Octopuses, Leviathans, Serpents. It's a quest for Ula'S Temple deck. It's great. Beating every turn, essentially what happens, you reveal a top card. If it's a creature, you put a counter on it, and it's good. After 3 counters, you can put a free one of those cards I just mentioned, so Leviathan, Kraken, Octopus, or Serpent, from your hand onto the field at the end of your turn for your charge. No mana costs, no gimmicks, nothing. Well, besides, revealing the creatures, but that's about it. And really, if you're running creatures in this deck, you're good. We're gonna go over that right now, actually. We're gonna meet me at my little mat with my cards, my deck. It's gonna be good. So, let's jump right into it with the land. Very simple land base. That's kind of a lie. I'm sorry for lying. Anyways, we got 7 islands right off the top. Basic lands just to keep the thing going. I got some full outs in there just to flex, but that's fine. Next, we got two forests right on the top because we're splashing green in here. We're also splashing black, so we got 2 more swamps in here. Murdering Mine, we got 1 of those. Just late in the game or even early in the game, we have, for some reason, one of your creatures just gets blown off the field right away. Place that down, comes in tapped, put it on top of your library if you get it next turn. It's also a trigger for Ula'S Temple if you put a creature on top, so it's good. Next one is Drowned Catacomb. Simple card, comes in tapped unless if you control an island or a swamp. Normally, you'll start the game with at least an island. If you get a second hand, you'll expand your mana pool a little bit, which is great. Next one, Halimar Depths. Pretty simple thing to do. You put it on the field, and then you just manipulate the next 3 draws you get. Also good for making sure the creature's on top, so you can trigger that Ula'S Temple. We got 1, 2, 3 of those guys. Then next is Simic Growth Chamber. It's not bad if you put it on the field while you have Halimar Depths or Murdering Mine on there. It's not bad. I mean, you return to your hand, place it down again, next turn, you trigger that ability. And plus, you make sure you don't fall behind on mana. We got 3 of those guys. Next, Breeding Pool. Pretty simple. It's just a breeding pool. You pay 2 life to have that additional green and blue mana. So like I said, mana base, we're just going to be splashing black and green in here for a couple of creatures, but every creature in here will have a blue. Will have a island cost to it. But yeah, so next let's move on to the actual deck itself. Either way, the rest of this is the actual library of the deck. First off, we're obviously going to have Ula'S Temple right at the top. We got 4 of those with 1 fancy foil. As I said at the beginning of the video, every time you draw a card, you reveal it. If it's a creature card, it gets a counter. Once it has 3 counters, you put down a Kraken, Leviathan, Octopus, or Serpent from your hand onto the battlefield for free. No gimmicks besides that. It's great. You place that down turn 1, 3 turns in, you get creatures on the top. Turn 4, or turn 3, my apologies, you get down a really nice Leviathan, Kraken, Octopus, or Serpent on the field. Turn 4, at least, you'll have something big to swing with. This one's foil. I just wanted to flex with that. Next one, Lorthos, Tidemaker. I only got 1 of these in the deck. It's just nice to have if you need some of that additional control when attacking. Whenever attacks pay 8, tap up to 8 target permanents. It doesn't tap on the next untap step, which is fantastic, because you can just completely lock out your opponent from attacking or blocking while you have your creatures on the field. Next one, Simic Sky Swallower. This is one of the more common ones that I mainly use when I go into competitive or like playing against my friends and stuff like that. It's flying with Trample and has Shroud. So you can't target with any sorceries or anything like that, but neither can your opponent. So it is a trade-off. I wish that it didn't have Shroud, but what can you do at this point? So we got 3 of those in there to make sure that you have a healthy dose of that. Next one is Stormtide Leviathan. essentially what goes on, turns all lands into islands. So say those basic forests, basic swamps, makes them islands too. It's great for making sure you have some additional blue mana on the field for spells and smaller creatures. And it has Island Walk, so it becomes unblockable and you can just swing with it. It's beautiful. Also prevents creatures who have flying and Island Walk from attacking. So if the other person doesn't have, if you're going up against a non-flyer deck, you're basically fine. You just free hits. The next one is Inkwell Leviathan. Trample, Island Walk, and Shroud. 7/11. It's great. It pairs really well with another card that I'm going to show you in a little bit. It's not bad though. It's a great blocker too. Next one, Elder Deep Fiend. Flash. When it enters the field, tap up to 4 target permanents on the field. It is 8 mana. But I mean, you use the emerge cost, you sacrifice one of the other creatures you have on the field. It becomes essentially if you sacrifice almost any other Leviathan on here on your opponent's turn, for 2 mana you turn it into a 5/6, so it is a reduction in power and toughness. But you tap 4 target permanents of the other person's choice, other person's field, not choice, and it allows you to just lock out your opponent again, just like Lorthos. And we've got 3 of these in here. Next one, my apologies, is Striped Riverwinder. It's an okay card. We mainly have it in there for that cycle. Allows us to just, cycle through your deck a bit more. You discard it, draw a card. That's fine. We'll never pay that 7 mana for this card to put on the field. We'll only use it if we got Ula'S Temple activated, or if we're doing that cycle. It has hexproof, which isn't bad if you want to target something with it to maybe make an additional one. Who knows? So we got 2 of those. Next one, Korra Crashing Wave. It's a Planeswalker. I mean, what can you say? Until I find something that can replace this perfectly and make sure that all the blah 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 blah. This is a Planeswalker. I got 2 of them. It's +1 loyalty. You pick 1 permanent on the field, prevent all damage to and from it. Really good if you're falling behind and the opponent has a 1 big beater. -1, draw a card, play additional land. It's not bad. At -5, beginning of the end step, put a 9/9 blue token on the field. You get an emblem that says that. And I got 2 of those in here just to be safe. What I was referencing with that Inkwell before was this guy. This is the only reason why I was splashing black. If we have a couple Leviathans on the field, and this guy comes out the turn after, you have like 3 of them, tap them all, you have the opponent mill at least 15-20 cards, which is essentially a Jace ult. Depending on the Jace, of course, but still, doing that once per turn isn't bad. And of course, when that turns into a creature eventually, no harm can be done there. That's a 4/7 though. That's fine. It's a good blocker once it's a creature. Next, Facet God of the Sea. Also not a bad card. Allows us to see what's coming up next so at the beginning of our turn. Just scry 1 at the each, and if we feel like it, if we have something that can be blocked, we just make it unblockable with its ability. Plus it's indestructible too, and it's a 5/5, so it's good for attacking and blocking. Then the Lost. I don't know how to pronounce this at all. I'm not gonna pretend I do. It's just a little flavor card in there, honestly. You can definitely switch this out for something a bit more useful, like even a negate or a divination or another Meldrifter would probably work in this place. But it's just, there's a nice little gimmick card that I like to throw in there just to keep things a little bit more on the fun side for myself. Coiling Oracle, green-blue, so only 2 mana to put in it. When Coiling Oracle comes into play, reveal the top card of your library. If it's a land card, put it into play. Otherwise, put the card in your hand. It's not bad. You place it, you get lucky, you get additional land card. At the minimum, it's a draw. And I got 2 of those in here, and that's the main reason why we're putting. That's one of the main reasons why we're putting green into the deck. Augury Owl, flying, scry 3, manipulate top 3 draws that you have for the next 3 turns. Really useful for Ula'S Temple, making sure you get those stacks. And it's a flying too, so if you come up with something that's flying, you don't have your Simic Sky Swallower out. It's an okay blocker. And also you can sacrifice it for Elder Fiend to turn its cost, Elder Fiend's cost from 7 to 5 on your opponent's turn. Or on your turn. Doesn't matter which one. This one, just like Halimar Depths, except it's 4 card. 4 cards instead of 3, and it's a 1 mana. So you get that beginning of your turn, and you don't have Ula'S Temple. Search for the top 4 for Ula'S Temple, put that on top, you're good to go. Next one, Mull Drifter, which is the card I was referencing you could replace FIBBLETHIP with. It's essentially a vote cost that turns into divination. At the worst, it's a 2/2 and you draw 2 cards from it. I don't recommend playing this as a blocker unless if you're in a pickle at this point, but with this deck you should never have to cast those ones. The next cards are spells and sorceries. There's only 5 of them in the deck, 2 of them of which are quasi-duplicate, which is create a copy of a target creature you control. Anything that doesn't have Shroud in here, you can duplicate and have that additional thing to make your opponent mill some more, or just for another attacker, which isn't bad. And the next is Whelming Wave. This is definitely a win card if you have a couple serpents on the field and they haven't blocked, and they don't have any creature, and they have creatures out, and they're all tapped out. You do Whelming Wave, all of the cards go back to their hand, and they're free to attack. You got 3 of those in there. It's not bad. I got no complaints. I'm not really sure as to what else I would replace that with. The only thing I would replace in this entire deck would be FIBBLETHIP. I'm assuming that's what it's called. That's the only one you don't need. The whole deck runs you about $110 on TCG Player. But in all honesty, if you're into the kind of idea of Ula'S Temple, it's definitely a fantastic deck to build, especially when you get your quasi-duplicates out. What else do we have here? Even another Coiling Oracle, you can throw that on, draw another card, or even just popping down Strike River Rider, Eldritch Deep Fiend, taking advantage of those abilities, or even another Stormtide. At this point, it would be unblockable Stormtide Leviathan. It's fantastic. Even if you want to use it on FIBBLETHIP, you could, but it's not needed. These Leviathans and Serpents, these are your main cards. These are what you'll be using to just win. With this deck, if you go up against something that is aggro, so like a mono red deck that just goes directly for your life points, isn't creature based or anything like that, you're gonna have a little bit of a hard time. If you go up against a spell based deck, so like that just revolves around instants and sorceries, you might have a little bit of a hard time being to keep up against that. And also, if you run up against a deck that has a lot of negates, you're going to have trouble with this. As long as you're not going up against a blue, or even a red deck, normally you're going to have a pretty high chance of just beating them out with these giant creatures. Because normally decks like green decks or even white decks won't have the chance to deal with these things early on. Possibly enchantment removal for Ula'S Temple, but chances of you having another one in your hand are pretty likely, so I wouldn't be too worried about it. I win quite a bit of games with this if I go to my local tournaments, even within my friend group. We all have pretty competitive decks, and it does pretty well for itself for the most part. You can win without Ula'S Temple, but it's not recommended because then you're waiting to get that, I don't know, 7 mana for a Sigma Sky Swallower or more. I'm hoping that's the right amount of mana. If not, I'll just throw it on the video somewhere that I was wrong and that I'm a butt. But yeah, that's pretty much it. It runs about $110 on TCG Player. It's a great deck. It's competitive. If you're into the idea of being able to just cast down big, huge creatures with a little bit of a weight behind it, it's not bad. If you want something that's going to kill your opponent right away, this isn't a turn 2 win deck. You're not going to be able to go up against decks that, I think I saw a budget $20 deck for an effect deck. Turn 2 decks, turn 3 decks, they'll kill you. But if you go up against something more mid range or late game, you have a pretty high chance of kicking some butt with this one, doing some flex with all those foils too if you foil it out. But I think that can run up to $360 if you foil everything, which I would not recommend. If you want to make it more competitive, get rid of that homunculus that's in there, throw something else in, maybe even another Augury Owl or another Leviathan even would be nice. But I just threw in the homunculus in there, just add some, like I said, a bit more flavor and a little bit more gimmickiness to it. Whelming Wave, of course, you can always replace that with another just complete destruction if you want to go and add some more black into it. But yeah, I mean, Ula'S Temple, it's a great deck. I love it. I've been playing it for a long time now, and I don't see any reason why you shouldn't.